So I'm Dan Schmerin. I'm the CEO at Wovo, based in New York City. Wovo is a fine art storage and collections management services company that services the entire tri-state area and beyond with a very innovative platform to help our clients in all of their collections management needs, what be it art, antiquities, antiques, fashion, and all sorts of other collectibles. So I'm very excited to be with you today.
Yeah. So I thought we could begin by speaking about just the defining characteristics of fine art storage.
Look, proper art storage and accompanying services are really keystones for responsible collection stewardship. They help ensure the legacy, longevity, and frankly, preserve the beauty of a collection for future generations.
Yeah.
One has to recognize that art that's left unattended or improperly exposed to the elements, even for a relatively short period of time, is vulnerable to damage or worse. And so
Yeah.
high quality storage is a key aspect of responsible collection care. You know, many institutions and individuals are intentionally collecting beyond their available walls
Mm.
because they're dedicated to keeping a comprehensive record of a time period, of an artist, of a movement. It's not entirely new. We've seen this go back hundreds and hundreds of years. But what is new, or relatively new, and unlike traditional storage or self-storage, fine art storage is very specialized. Our facilities offer a variety of climatization options to meet the requirements of any client, including museum-grade environments, which maintain 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 50% relative humidity day in and day out. And ultimately, we seek to serve as a long-term partner for each client, specific to their needs, understanding their preferences, helping them manage and preserve highest standards, and exceeding their expectations along the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as a client of your firm, I do find that you all do offer very high level services. And I think some part of the way that you guys have organized yourself has redefined the industry. And maybe you could just touch upon what that kind of shift has entailed.
There's been minimal innovation or evolution in this industry since the mid 1970s.
Yeah.
So Wovo was founded by a passionate art collector who genuinely wanted to reimagine the quality of facilities and the corresponding client experience. That means providing a comprehensive suite of services to accompany first-class storage facilities that are not an afterthought. I say that because many businesses that are in this industry started as service companies and eventually morphed into providing storage alongside services.
It's a great distinction.
So I would tell you that the focus on dramatically elevating the client experience was the first key element in reimagining the industry. And to help achieve that, Wovo developed 4 purpose-designed facilities throughout the New York area that are managed by a team of industry-leading experts dedicated to ensuring that works are safeguarded with the highest caliber of security, discretion, professionalism, and care. You know firsthand, our flagship facility in Long Island City was the first ever built from the ground up, dedicated to caring for fine art and related collections. Every detail, every mechanical system, every security feature was designed for that purpose. Now, that's highly unusual,
Right.
largely because of the considerable costs associated with doing so. But it makes for an entirely different experience. By owning our facilities, Wovo bears the burden of ensuring that all systems and infrastructure remain perfect. Our clients want peace of mind. They don't want excuses. Most competitors have to deal with landlords, and the landlords are the ones responsible for maintaining the roof, for maintaining the mechanical systems or helping to retrofit or insulate old space. We didn't have any interest in pointing fingers at anyone else. We wanted to be solely responsible. And I can assure you, our founder, Steve Gutman, is our most discerning client.
Yeah.
And that bodes pretty well for everyone else that we serve.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. So then I guess in speaking about your facilities, there is, if I understand correctly, a difference between climate controlled. That term, I guess, can be used for a variety of situations. And I thought maybe you could just kind of break it down for the viewers, how there are distinctions within climate controlled.
It's a great point because in many respects, it becomes a misnomer. And understandably, for people that are not expert and don't spend all of their time dedicated to the space, things begin to get grouped or lumped together. So you're right. Sometimes climate control refers to heated storage during the winter months and perhaps some AC during the summer. Other times, climate control can refer to stabilized temperature year-round. And even other times, it can refer to stabilized humidity levels. The reason this is consequential is that normal fluctuations in temperature and humidity can pose a serious risk to your collection long-term.
Exactly.
So one of the first things to understand as folks are emerging with their collections is to determine whether they need stabilized temperature, whether they need stabilized humidity, or both. And it really depends on the kind of fine art or other collectibles. Whatever the client's need may be, they should ensure that the facility, their provider, their partner, has a comprehensive BMS system that controls temperature and humidity with an automatic reporting function in case a reading is out of range. I can assure you one thing that we invest a ton of money into is our technology and engineering equipment, all of which has redundancies and all of which is remotely monitored. The last point I'd make on this is that the term museum standard climate control is very specific, and it's something that we provide and make available to all of our clients as needed. Museum standard or museum grade climate control refers to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 50% relative humidity throughout the year. And for many of our clients, they know that that is the best of the best. Again, it is rare that providers can actually deliver on that. They may say, Heather, we provide climate controlled storage, and now you know how to be discerning in asking subsequent questions. Well, what do you mean by climate control? Are you providing museum standard? Is it 70-50? Are you just maintaining temperature and believe that that's good enough? You know, from your experience in New York, humidity levels can fluctuate dramatically.
Yeah.
So at WOVO, we have 3 levels of climate control, and that enables us to customize solutions based on whatever your specific need is. If you don't need level 2 or level 3 climate control, we're going to make a recommendation that's suited, appropriate to your collection.
I can give an example with my own collection for that, actually, because I have it separated between 2 different facilities according to the climate control. And in one facility, I have design pieces that are just glass. So the relative humidity does not affect them. So I have them in just a temperature control without the humidity, while the fine art is obviously much more susceptible to humidity and temperature. But yeah, I separate.
And that's a great example of why we created a series of facilities in various places, both for risk mitigation, but also to provide that level of customization, right? We don't believe that one size fits all. And so we want to serve as your partner and to say, Heather, let's talk about your specific inventory and figure out the right solution so it's appropriate to the unique pieces and the price point works well for each client.
Yeah. So another distinction that would be good to clarify are private rooms and concierge.
So I like to use the moniker 432 when it comes to Wovo.
Okay.
Today we have 4 facilities, we have 3 different levels of climatization, and we have 2 different types of storage. So you're asking about the 2.
Okay.
Some clients prefer private rooms, and I'll explain what that is, but they are just what they sound like. It's your own space, customized to fit your own needs. It's exclusively for you. Wovo can help manage the inventory in these rooms, or alternatively, you can elect to keep the contents totally private. Concierge storage, on the other hand, isn't entirely and exclusively managed by Wovo. We store everything in a highly efficient racking system. We retrieve it for the client upon request, hence the term concierge. It's very cost effective, it's highly flexible, it provides all the same climate and security protections. So it's really a question of an individual's personal preference and needs. To the extent that you don't need to visit something personally, it can be a better option. To the extent that you have enormous works of art that can't easily fit in a private room, it's often the better option. It's also ideal if you only have a couple of things to store. You think about emerging collectors. They may not have 1,000 works, they may have 10.
Right.
And this way, they don't need the unnecessary space and expense of an entire private room. So again, it's providing the client with maximum flexibility. And we have many clients that may have a private room and utilize concierge storage, just as you say. Private room may be in one of our locations that's fully climatized to museum grade standard. And then they may have other pieces, just a handful, that are large, unwieldy, bulky, sculptural, and those may be placed into our concierge storage and accessible as soon as they need them.
So I think the other topic that seems to mystify a number of collectors is retrieving works from storage. So I was hoping you could walk me through the process of one wanting to obtain work out of storage from Wovo.
Yeah, it's a question that often comes up, and I guess the best answer to tell you is, at least at Wovo, it's an extremely simple process. Every client of ours is assigned an account manager or an account management team, and they look after every aspect of your experience. They are your Sherpa. Anything that you need that is art storage or services related, they help facilitate for you. And so all you have to do is let your designated account manager know that you or your representative are coming to pick up a piece of work, and we will make a retrieval appointment. We will scan that piece out of our system, and it'll be ready at our facility for your retrieval. Of course, if you have unmanaged storage in a private room, which goes back to what we just talked about, you elect to have a private room, you want to keep everything in there very confidential, and we respect that. We take confidentiality very seriously. So if that is your choice, then you simply need to make an appointment to visit, and you'll be granted access. After all, it's your room, and you can do as you please, right? Wovo doesn't manage the inventory, the contents of those unmanaged rooms. That would be on you.
So I assume the process of delivery is almost the same as the process of collection, where you make an appointment with your team at Wovo. You make an appointment for them to receive the work, or if you have a private room, you bring the work in yourself.
Again, I think you're totally right. It's a pretty similar situation. Our goal is to make it as seamless and easy as possible. And in just a few months, we're going to take a major leap forward with the launch of a new client portal that's going to dramatically enhance and empower clients to control all of their inventory that's entrusted to our care. Today, and even going forward, if it's their preference, they can simply call their account manager for a delivery appointment or to schedule a pickup. If the work is pre-packed, terrific, makes it easier. If Wovo needs to pack it for you, we'll bring the necessary materials. And of course, every piece that we manage, whether it's in a private room and the client has asked us to manage for them, or in our concierge storage, which is entirely managed by us, we barcode, we scan it into location, and everything is accounted for, and it remains very easy.
That's great, because that leads me into something else that I thought we could talk about, which was the inventory system.
Wovo made a point from day one of ensuring that our systems would be entirely digital, thoroughly backed up, so there's redundancies, but really state of the art. And this is another way that we were reimagining the industry, because there are providers, and there certainly were providers for many years, that were using paper and pen or some version of Excel. So, as I just mentioned, there are plenty of logistics examples that one could pick up on. Think of FedEx, think of UPS, where things are barcoded and scanned, and we manage it the same way, right? We want to know exactly where your pieces are at all times, typically to within 12 inches of its location, right? That level of specificity. We're not interested in lost papers. So on the one hand, collectors can and should keep their own inventories, including the dimensions of every piece, the title, the artist, and ideally an image, right? Having that accurate inventory prepared will provide peace of mind, will make everything easier, and that includes when they transfer works to storage. That's typically one of the first items we'll ask, is whether they have some sort of inventory list that we can utilize to make the process even more seamless. However, if you haven't been keeping an inventory, there's good news. Our collections management team can help with that too. And they'll help by measuring, photographing, cataloging. Again, it depends on the needs of the client, but we recognize that as time progresses, some people are more organized than others, particularly when it comes to these pursuits of passion. And so we're happy to help.
I mean, I can even say I'm quite pedantic, so I'm very organized and I have all that information. But there were 3 works that I bought from an artist maybe 15 years ago. And the artist didn't have them photographed, nor I think we had the correct dimensions. We didn't have them photographed. By the time I thought of it, they were already framed. And where they were installed in my home, I couldn't get a proper photograph. So I had taken them to storage, and yes, I had your team photograph all 3. The images were great, and I even shared them with the artist, and we were both so happy to finally have proper images of those works. And it was seamless, very affordable, seamless, super easy. I basically didn't do anything. I just told them I'd like these photographed. Yes, I agreed to the charges, and it was done.
The good news is, as with many other things in life, the costs associated with cataloging, photographing, archiving, et cetera, are all going down, right? Yeah. So our ability, we're living in a virtual era right now with COVID, and the push to have online viewing rooms, online images, high quality digital imagery that go beyond sort of the 1080 megapixels. That is fast approaching. We know that our cell phone technology, these little iPhones that everybody's carrying, in less than 24 months, the quality of imagery that we're going to get on these brand new screens that Apple and other manufacturers are working on are going to be game changing.
Yeah.
So it's happening. It's all coming. And part of what we had announced to clients earlier this year is to ensure they were aware of our ability to provide these services and do so increasingly at even more economical rates. because we will look to combine your photography session with another client's photography session so that we have some efficiencies, right? The photographer only has to come in one day and we're taking care of a number of clients. That's part of our goal. It's part of our offering.
Speaking of billing, actually, what are the common billing metrics for fine art storage?
Look, it does range from provider to provider. So let me try and give a general perspective and also speak specifically about Wovo. Private rooms are typically leased from 1 to 10 years in term, akin to an apartment lease. And the square footage of the room, the amount of customization, the level of climate control, as well as the facility's location are all factors in deciding the term of that lease. If you want a highly customized room with a very high level of climate control in a specific facility, Wovo and other providers will want to know that you're going to be there for a reasonable amount of time to make that investment on your behalf.
Yeah.
Concierge, and so private rooms, again, are billed by the square foot. It's relatively easy to measure, just like your apartment. Concierge storage, on the other hand, is billed by the cubic foot. And there is no minimum term. So concierge storage, by its very nature, is going to be most flexible and attainable. At Wovo, for instance, our prices start at $195 per month for concierge storage. So when we think about emerging collectors, and they may be daunted by the prospect of having to move with offsite storage, we have made a point of ensuring that our offering can cater to the widest possible range of collectors. And payments are easy. I mean, clients typically set it up automatically and have their credit cards debited. So it's not something that they have to keep track of or worry about. They have made elections in writing at the start of our relationship, and anytime they want to make changes, they know who to email and how to do so. I mentioned the innovative client portal that we're going to launch in the near future. And so again, our clientele is going to have unprecedented access and control over their collections, and that will include billing and invoice statements to make the process even more seamless.
The other topic maybe we could just touch upon, because some people are interested in hearing about free ports. So I thought maybe we could just quickly talk about what free ports are, and I guess how they operate uniquely.
So you may have this on your mind since the first art storage facility in New York that had a foreign trade zone designation recently closed.
Yeah.
To put it very simply, foreign trade zones, also known as free ports, allow you to avoid import-export duties when moving goods between countries. And they can be extremely advantageous depending on the materials and countries involved. American foreign trade zones have historically served the automotive, electronics, and oil industries, among others, but they have more limited benefits than in other countries. Having said all that, there is no US customs duty on fine art. So a foreign trade zone designation isn't particularly useful here in the United States. I mean, this is why some experts have remarked that having a facility designated as a foreign trade zone for art storage creates a tax-free zone in search of a tax. Doesn't make sense.
Right.
And that leads us to the last important point. Foreign trade zones have nothing to do with sales and use tax.
Right, exactly.
Not just in states like New York, but many of the states in our nation will impose sales and use tax. So while becoming a foreign trade zone is really just a matter of paperwork, Wovo has not pursued this designation to date because we haven't seen demand from our clientele on that aspect, right? When we think about innovating as part of our corporate strategy, we don't want to do so in a vacuum. We want to be very responsive to what we are hearing from our clients and constantly try to skate to where the puck is going rather than where it's been.
Mm. Yeah, well, I think that answers that question very well. And, I guess we could also talk about security, because that is one thing that we briefly touched upon at the beginning of the conversation, but maybe you could talk a little bit about why security matters at a storage facility, and what the ideal practices are in regards to security.
It's a very important question. And if we are indeed going to provide our clients with peace of mind, security is a central component of that.
Mm.
Independent security assessments generally indicate that relying solely on guards is not sufficient.
Mm.
A UL certified, AA rated electronic security alarm system that uses magnetic contacts, motion, glass breakage, plus water detection, and closed circuit television monitoring on a 24/7, 365 basis is a must. If you are shopping for a storage provider, that's something that you ought to ask.
Are there any final suggestions or thoughts in regards to storage, things that we might have skipped over or need more insight, or just suggestions, general suggestions beyond what we've touched upon?
Yeah, let me maybe make two final points, pick up on just what we talked about, because you mentioned natural disasters, could be a flood, could be a fire. So any prospective client should do basic diligence when they're interacting with a service provider. Again, this is a precious collection of theirs. It often has enormous sentimental value. It can also have very significant financial value. So number one, they should check that the facility is outside of the floodplain. It's easily done on FEMA's website. Next, they ought to make sure that the facility has backup generators that can power all of the core systems, climate control, as well as the security systems to protect against any type of electrical outage. If there's a fire, we want to ensure that the systems they have in place are very similar to what I described earlier. A UL certified fire alarm system that reports 24/7 to a central monitoring station, in addition to having a minimum of 2-hour fire rated metal doors. These are questions that you ought to ask as part of your diligence, just as you would in conducting some sort of pre-purchase assessment of a new home.
Mm-hmm.
And let me make a final point about whether a storage provider owns its facilities, as we do, or simply rents them. It is worth pointing out that renting leaves vulnerable to deferred maintenance. It leaves you vulnerable to unexpected mandates to move if the rent changes, or even if the building is sold.
Mm.
You're often not able to customize to the same level as when you work with a company that owns their own facilities, right? You're basically stuck with things as is. And you should expect a much higher standard of safety, stability, and service from a company that owns their own facilities. So when you asked earlier, how do we differentiate ourselves? I think this helps put a finer point on a key aspect of that differentiation, right? We are unwilling to compromise and cut any corners when it comes to serving our clients.